Welcome to Montreal Rocks. I'm here live with Jen Simpson, also known as Kit Vale, which is a new side project of yours. So originally you're from the band Neon Bloom, which is how I got to know you.
Mhm.
But now you have this new single, a new project, a solo project, and you also have a single coming out on October 23rd called It's Our Time. So let's talk about the single. Let's go back a little bit about your history and your story, and see how we can get to know you better.
All right.
So I know that this new song is kind of a departure from what you normally do. It's heavily influenced by a large range of musical influences, and you describe it as a tongue-in-cheek modern anthem that embodies discontent, rebellion, and ultimately hope, which is interesting because there's a bit of a contrast about discontent and hope, yet somehow through exposing it, sometimes we can bring hope. So tell us a little bit about this single and maybe how this project came along.
Okay. Well, so the single and the song specifically, I really wanted to release it, with the upcoming election in the US and just the basic climate of society right now. Everything's so in such turmoil, and there's so much hostility and aggression and sadness and everything with COVID, and things are hard right now. And I felt like this was the time to put out this song because I started writing it a few years ago, or a year or two ago, and it started out being about, and you can see in the first verse, it's kind of about personal experiences with, abuse and difficulties, and this being feeling like you're stuck in this um, mire of life, and it's hard to get out of, but then persevering and like getting through it and coming out the other end. And then I move into, basically I attach that to society as a whole. Mostly it's written from a feminist perspective, so a lot of it is about abuse towards women and domestic violence and that type of situation, but it's also meant to sort of speak to all the different forms of discrimination and bigotry and everything that are going on right now.
Mhm.
And basically, it's like a call to action that, it's our time. And, things seem really dark right now, but we have agency, and we can do something about it, and we can get out there and we can vote, we can make our community better, we can make our personal lives better, we can, so basically it's taking it from the individual to societal to global, sort of
Mhm. Well, I
across
think
the board.
when you back up, I mean, the society that we live in is based on individuals, uh, many whom are great people,
Yeah,
but they are those that are obviously not great people,
yeah,
and they're the ones that are the abusers, those that are violent, and that caused a lot of chaos. And unfortunately, they're the ones that get the most attention.
yeah,
But as individuals, we can all do our part, and I think that your song is basically empowering people to take a look at their lives and ask themselves, like, what side am I on? Am I
mhm,
empowering people to do good, or am I maybe focusing too much on the negative?
yes. And also to not be complacent, to not pretend that there's just this middle ground, because when you don't do anything and you don't take a side, sometimes that's as
That's taken
bad as
aside.
doing the wrong thing. Yeah, it's you're letting things happen. And
Well,
yeah.
that kind of goes with the Me Too movement. There
Yeah.
was a lot of abuse by men in power,
Mhm.
and it wasn't just the fact that they were, using their power to control people and abuse people and do all these terrible things, but it was also the people around them that allowed it to happen. So sometimes turning a blind eye or not saying anything or not
Yeah.
standing up is being complicit
Yeah.
in the badness.
Yeah, they're enabling it. And I have this conversation because I'm a feminist, and then I know that that comes with a lot of negative connotations for some people, because maybe they're not quite sure what that means, or they think if you're pro female, it means you're anti male, which is not the case at all. Um, And I've had some really great conversations, especially with male friends, my husband, different people. And you know, when people really take the time to listen to your side of the story and like how your life has gone and how it is different from theirs, just because you are a woman, it's really, I think, enlightening, and it also for them, and it also gives them a chance to open up about their experiences and how they view these things and maybe what difficulties they've had in their life. And um, I think it's really important to just have that conversation and not make it this super antagonistic thing, but like just talk about it and be open about it and normalize it a little bit. And yeah, I think it would just be healthier.
Yeah,
For
I think more people need the bravery to discuss their pain.
yeah.
You've obviously, well, I don't know, but I'm assuming that you've experienced some abuse. You've also had some health issues, but you're very open about talking with it, which is very brave. And when you start talking about it, you start taking away its power,
Yeah.
especially the negative connotations. I mean, to talk about these things maybe 20, 30 years ago would be
Mhm.
taboo, but now we're taking away the power of these things because we're able to expose them and talk about them. So, how has that helped you in your personal life?
It's massively helpful because it releases this burden that you feel like you have to shoulder all the time. And I mean, talking about my health issues, that only really started in the last year or so. Two, yeah, a year and a half. I started being comfortable saying like, oh yeah, this is, I have epilepsy. I've gone through these horrible things. I've had like a bunch of different health problems. They've messed up my life, and I've had to figure out how to get through it. And when I was in the thick of it and everything was starting out, I just felt like I couldn't talk about it, or people didn't believe me, or I was ashamed, or I didn't have a diagnosis, or I didn't know what was going on. And you feel like you just need to keep it all in. Um, and when you are vocal about it and you do tell people about it, or they find out about it, or they're affected by it, they do react negatively a lot of the time.
Mm.
So that's part of the fear I think that people have, is losing people in their lives, which has happened to me just from my illness, and or from speaking out about certain things. That it's, that's a risk you take, but um, at the same time, maybe those aren't the people that should be in your life anyway. So,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think there's a lot of benefit from looking at an issue or looking at a problem, something that happened to us, and instead of looking at it as of like, why did this happen to me? Think of it instead of why is it happening for me.
Right.
This is something from that I read a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy called "Personality is Not Permanent," and I loved it because it was all talking about sometimes when we can take past trauma, which could be you know health issues or abuse, and instead of saying why me and be a victim, we can say, well, how's this helped me? What have I learned from this? Maybe I'm more empathetic. I'm sure you are more empathetic with others.
Mhm.
You're more open to listen. You're more open to console because of those experiences. So it made you a better person in the end because you're more open to uh, that being able to share and to help others.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm a huge believer in post-traumatic growth. So, um, it's the idea of like where, you know, because things broke in a certain way, you're able to grow from it. And there's a lot of like evidence that that happens, can happen to people. It's so it's kind of an opportunity. And in my own life, that's what happened. I literally broke down so far that I had nowhere to live, $20. My husband left me. I came back to Canada. I had nothing to do. Like I didn't know what I was going to do, and I had to rebuild my life from literally the bottom up.
Mhm.
Couldn't get much worse, and I was having seizures every single day. It was horrible. So in 5 6 years, my life is completely, it's better than it ever was. And a lot of that is because I was so changed and motivated, and I made decisions differently. I appreciated things more. I could see things for what they were. I just had more clarity from going through those difficult experiences. And I think that's equipped me better for life than I was before.
And that's
Everything.
why you can say it's our time, it's my
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
because you've obviously conquered, you conquered those struggles, those demons, whatever you want to call it, and you've made a life for yourself, and you've gotten out of that pit.
Mhm.
Now, what I like about I want to find out a bit about the name Kit Vale, because it's a little mysterious. I know that the word veil can sometimes mean farewell. So, what is something that you want to see go away, say farewell to?
Say farewell to. Well, um, this is the first time that I actually openly spoke about abuse. So, and I feel like I'm in a position now in my life where I feel more powerful than I ever have been. My life is better, and and I just feel like I learned so much that I don't think, and just structurally I'm in a position where I don't need to put up with things like that. I don't know, it's so complicated, but yeah, I went through a period where I was being abused by somebody, and it was like being put in a pot. You know how they cook frogs? I think they put them in a pot and it boils slowly. It
Slowly, yeah.
can take years, and something's wrong the whole time, and you try to get out of the pot sometimes, but you don't, and it just keeps going and going and going, and then it's too late. And so I went through something like that, and it was I was in a relationship, and it was a family member of his, actually. So it was very bizarre. But these things happen, and yeah, I just feel like I'm far beyond that now, enough that I can look back and be like, that's done. I don't ever have to go back to that. I don't have to put up with that. If someone in my life comes into my life now and acts like that, it won't happen. But I did have to kind of go through that experience to know that it's strange. And I just hope that other people, the more um, women especially come out and talk about abuse, then the more younger women or other women will be able to see the signs of that and not let it go on, and just be able to stop it or get help, find resources to help them out of their situation if they can't get out of it.
I find it interesting, just to break that down a little bit about the boiling water, how it starts off lukewarm and kind of scales up, and how maybe young women can't tell they're being abused, which is I never really thought about that. That's really a eye opener for me. But what would you say would be some of the signs that you would tell? Let's say you can go back in time and tell your younger self, like, what would you say to yourself to maybe wake yourself up?
Um, there's this saying that I like. I don't know who said it, but it was something like, you don't know the devil until they leave the room. So the idea is that you can be around someone who is charming or funny or fun to be around or any of those things. But when they leave, you have this feeling usually. So, when you see one of your best friends, or, your parents or somebody that you love, and they leave, you feel good. You just have this glow.
Mm.
You feel happy. And then some people, even if they haven't said anything explicitly wrong, you just feel bad, and it stays with you, and they kind of drain you a bit. And that's something I would not ignore again. And also, people overstepping boundaries in subtle ways is usually indicative of a bigger problem. As time
Mm.
goes on, they'll start to progress. That's a major thing. So somebody sort of invading your personal space in weird ways, like in your home, or messing with your things, I guess, trying to like, like
Manipulate in small ways
yeah,
almost.
manipulative. And even if you just feel creeped out by somebody, it's probably a good sign to like listen to that, and trust yourself. And I think for myself, when I was younger, that was a big problem, because you don't have the experience. So I didn't trust myself. I thought, everyone's telling me this is okay. I'm overreacting. I'm a drama queen, whatever it is. Then it's like, oh, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. And then, of course, you're not wrong. You
Mhm.
know better than anyone how you feel. And, I think young women are brushed off a lot of the time. And yeah, looking back, I would definitely have supported myself more and been like, listen to yourself.
Yeah,
You know.
there's something very strong about intuition and we don't completely understand it. I know that I've come to uh, trust my wife's intuition.
Yeah.
It took me a while to come around because I was not the smartest man for many years, but I finally figured out it's like, no, she's right, like pretty much all the time. So just pay attention because it does come from these signals that are maybe subconscious, but they make a pretty accurate judgment of a character sometimes. So listen
Mhm.
to your instincts.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to go back to the song, but kind of before that, um, before Kid Vale. Kid Vale obviously is a project that has a lot of musical influences. So I wanted you to take us back to your childhood. You're maybe flipping through your album collection of your parents. Is there some song that you heard or something that really made music go from something that you just heard to something you felt?
Oh, yes. I grew up with music since I was born. My mom's a musician. My dad has a had a huge record collection. He'd always be blaring, the Rolling Stones, Zeppelin. My mom loved the Beatles. Joni Mitchell. We always had music playing. We had a piano. We had guitars, bass, drums, like everything available to play around with. So it was something that was just weaved into my life, from the beginning. Definitely rock and roll like that. I listened to a lot of the classics like Chuck Berry, and I would listen to also 60s girl groups and blues. My mom had these very old blues records. I don't even know who some of them were, but just amazing, amazing, amazing. Yeah, and Bill Withers, like so many of the classics. So I have a range from, yeah, like original blues kind of stuff to doo-wop girl groups to rock and roll, and then in 90s grunge really inspired me, like Nirvana and Hole and bands like that. Sorry, I'm gonna turn my phone off. It just yeah, so yeah, I was always drawn to that more aggressive style of music though. Just personally I find it exciting. It just resonates with me. But then I also love folk music, so yeah, it's it's sort of a wide range. So when I'm making music though, it always seems to veer much more towards rock or punk or something along dancey kind of 80s music. That
Yeah,
kind
there's definitely an 80s vibe. Like you mentioned in your bio that there's this Pet Shop Boys background, and I
of.
could I could tell, especially towards the end, it kind of brought me back to the 90s there.
Yeah.
When you're uh, making the song, what was apart from the story of your own life, and what's the message that you really want to, if you could put, excuse me, the whole thing, and dilute it into like one or two words, what would be the message of this song?
um, Take action, basically. Yeah, because I mean, where we are right now, it feels like precarious and potentially a very dangerous situation. I know I mentioned the US election, we're in Canada, but what happens in one country affects the whole world now. That's just, we live in a global world. We're not in these silos anymore.
Hmm.
I think along with a lot of people, I'm pretty worried about what's going on there. I'm worried about Canada with COVID and how we're going to recover from this and how we're going to, yeah, it's just so many stresses happening right now. It's pretty dire feeling. But at the same time, I think going back to the idea of post traumatic growth, it's also a really great opportunity for us to make the right decisions and just kind of be a bit more empathetic and open with each other and sort of just do the right thing and move forwards, take this all this negative energy and anxiety and everything, and do some sort of alchemy and turn it into something positive and just kind of make our world and our countries and our cities and towns better.
I think that we have maybe many uh, bad role models
Yeah.
that are influencing people
Hmm.
in ways that are even dangerous. The
Yeah.
world is getting more and more violent, more and more divisive, And your song talks all about, you know, you don't necessarily have to agree with someone to be agreeable.
Hmm.
You don't have to love everybody to be lovable.
No.
You can have these good qualities and be tolerant while not agreeing, let's say, with the lifestyle or agreeing with what they do, but you can still be agreeable and be gracious. And I
Yeah.
think that's what the world needs, is for people to just stop stop hating so much, stop complaining, and stop nitpicking. I mean, as a woman, I'm sure you find that people are commenting on the way you look, the way everything, and it becomes, it's like, we don't need to be in a microscope to see the world around us as beautiful. Like, it's just, everybody is everybody has their own qualities. And I think a good practice is, even when you meet someone, instead of finding out the fault, if that's what how we think, is try to flip that around and try to find one positive thing to say, to be the first thing out of your mouth. Whether
Hmm.
it's I love your shoes, or you got a great smile, or I really enjoyed what you said, and make
Yeah.
something of a positive statement. And I think that's what your song does.
Oh, thank you.
So we look forward to having it come out on the 23rd. Are there going to be any more songs or from this project?
Yes, definitely. This was the first one, and I just it's a bit, again, like a bit of a departure from what I normally do, but I wanted it to come out now, and I will be working on, another single pretty soon, more melodic kind of tune. So that should be coming out soon. Maybe I might even try to record an album in my basement. I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to figure out what to do right now still, but
The
yeah.
COVID sessions,
Hmm.
the Covale sessions.
Yeah.
So, well, we look forward to hearing from that. I definitely heard a lot of, like I said, Blondie meets a Pet Shop Boy meets some old style rap. Is pretty cool. It's a nice,
Thank
very fresh combo. So we look forward to featuring it on the site. And thank you so much for your time.
thank you. Oh, one more thing. Neon Bloom has an EP coming out in November. I should have mentioned that. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So yeah.
I'll put a link in the show notes.
All right. Thanks so much.